know about when we go around the sort of standard museum tour, or is it more about the building, or?
About the building, please.
Yeah.
When
Sorry,
it
just a second.
dates.
Why is that so blurry?
Okay,
we'll
okay.
get-
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever you want to focus, if you hold your corner there,
Right, okay. Yep.
and then it should go.
Right, okay.
It's
Yeah.
doing automatically
Yeah.
now, so that should be fine. Okay,
Yeah,
just
come
sort
round and
of
we'll
yeah.
have a quick look around.
Anything you can tell us, and especially like any ghostly activity or any
Yeah, okay.
experiences anybody's had, anything
Okay,
you got
yeah.
really.
I'll start over here then, because this is probably the best place to start.
Yeah.
Because what we know about the building is it was originally only half this side, and this sort of marked the outside wall of the original building that started in about the 13th century, so that's the 1200 and somethings. And this was originally a windowsill, we think, for this half of the building, which is the oldest half.
Right.
And then in like the 16th, or the 16th and 17th, they built out into this way, and then formed what is now the jail, what it used to be. But if you come this, so this is the oldest wall. This is the 13th century wall.
Okay.
But you come round, because this area we're standing in now was the sort of prisoners' indoor exercise yard,
Right.
and there was two halves, they're separated by the wooden planks that are just there. And there's one half for debtors, who are people in prison for debts, and one half condemned and sort of criminals. And some quite nice sort of features. If you look down here onto this wall, is some of the original graffiti of the building. The building is full of original graffiti, and you can make out people's names and things what are from the original jail cell. I think there's someone called Tom there. I sit reading these, and there's a T there. Look, I think the son of Tom. I was reading this here, but you can make out an A up there. Look. And these are all from the original jail. There's a lot more of the graffiti upstairs. That's where most of the graffiti is, but there's a small bit of down here.
Yeah. And this was the exercise yard, did you say?
Not
this
the
area?
exercise. This is the sort of indoor exercise yard. The courtyard that's out there, we can have a look out there as well as the other exercise yard.
All right. Is that the part where the parking spaces
Yeah,
are?
no, just out in our courtyard here. You can come out and have a look.
Oh,
now.
right,
Where you
yeah,
came
yeah.
in, look, this was another exercise yard outside. I don't even want to see outside, but
Yeah.
yeah. So this was the prison exercise yard where it was outside. You can see obviously the high walls because it was actually a jail. In that corner over there, look, you can see their sort of original drinking trough. Look. And that's where they would drink their water from. You can see the little thing in the corner there?
Oh, what, the little square?
The little square there. You can go have a look closer. We plant plants in it now, so it doesn't look much like a good drinking trough, but the original part of the... you can see this is where they get their water when they're in this thing.
Oh,
and
right.
yeah. And there was and where the car park was, where you probably came in, there was another exercise yard there, because it was all separated by debtors and the condemned as well. And this was the condemned, this is where the criminals were kept, and there was a nicer sort of courtyard on the other side of that wall, and the jailer also had to live in this building with the prisoners.
Right.
He kept a garden on that side of the wall, which you know that the garden was on that side of the wall. So that was a nicer sort of thing. Well, this was obviously all just floor, that gate wasn't there, it would have been just a wall, and the front of the building would have been on the other side, so this would have been the back of the building. And this is where the condemned were kept. We don't know how long they were kept here, but we do know that at the time there was about 70 people in this building at one time.
Right.
So
Oh,
They
yeah.
would all been put out probably during the day or something. Just to
Yeah.
supervise. So
Because
that's
it's
great.
not that huge, is
It's
it?
not
I
very big.
mean,
We'll go upstairs and you'll see.
yeah.
Most of the prisoners were all kept upstairs. And this downstairs was a smaller jailer. He lived on this side. In fact, we can go around here and we can see. It's probably you sort of delve into sort of bits of the museum you don't normally see. But you can see an original doorway in that cupboard there. I know it's all sort of full of our junk nowadays, but you can see the original doorway there. Look.
Yeah. And what was that for?
That was just a door. That is just a normal door. That is just entry into this part of the building. That's probably how they brought the prisoners into that part of the building.
Oh, right, right. And did you say this was like blocked off? Was it? There was
Blocked off. There was walls
Yeah.
here. As you can see, where the little modern cut's been made into this wall. That
Right.
you see the square that we've opened it off into here.
Yeah.
And you can come over here as well. You can see there's an original beam back here. You know, we're sort of crawling around here, but original beam there. So this would have been another. I think we don't have doors on that side. We can see it on the other side of the wall. But there's a bread oven just in there. We've stuffed it full of envelopes, of course. But there's an oven in there.
Oh, right.
And so we're sort of hiding away bits of the original building.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can come round, we can go right round and we can see.
Yeah.
There's not too much to see in this bit. We've obviously most of the original walls are still here. You can see another sort of modern cut we've made to go through into this bit, which would have been Something to notice about this is this was their exercise yard, but all the windows are modern. There have been no windows in this area, so there would have been a fireplace there where the window was. There would have been a second one, so all they would have had would have been the fireplace. And there would have been no chimney as well, because they weren't allowed chimney, because they might try and crawl up it, because it wasn't very nice. There you go, that's another doorway here, that's what I was trying to tell you, it's the other side of what we're on. And that's another original doorway. You can see that's quite a nice one. You can have a look around here as well, you've seen most of this side already, but you can see the other side of the door that we saw that was in the cupboard just there, that comes out to this wall, it's sort of half hidden by this painting, but you can see that this is the other end of the wall, you can just sort of take it out with the hinges and things that you can see, and try and behind this painting with this look at that. Yes, so.
And what was that?
That's where the cupboard was, all that junk. Do you remember the cupboard?
Right.
All that junk. And then there's this door, you can see on the end of the cupboard, and this is where it comes out to.
Right, yeah.
Right,
And that bit there, I suppose that square there was blocked off.
yeah, this would have been
Yeah.
blocked off as well. You can see it now again, sort of modern cut where there's sort of modern sort of things. This is the panelling I mentioned. This is what separated the two, the sort of debtors from the jailers. And we originally had iron bars that went across between the gaps, so they couldn't, get their fingers in or anything. You can see the original sort of attachments to the wood.
Okay.
And
Is
when-
this where they were sort of tied up as such, is it?
Not, they probably would. This is where they got free reign. Upstairs is where they would have been tied up. We'll go
Right.
upstairs, and that's where they were kept overnight and things.
Okay, so is this classed as planking on the walls?
This is planking on the walls. Yeah, there's a plank wall. There's a plank partition, and this has been moved because if you come around here, you can actually see on the floor where the original halfway point was. When they edited the museum, they've moved the plank panelling sort of out this way. You can see
Right.
and here.
And what exactly was the planking panelling for, did you
That's
say?
to separate the two, the debtors from the criminals. Because the
Right.
debtors would have been kept. I'm not sure which side was which, I'm afraid,
Okay.
but debtors would have been on one side and condemned criminals on the other side. Keep them
Right.
separate.
Yeah. I know this is going to sound really stupid and thick, but what were debts?
If you had debt in the sort of pre-Victorian, before Victorians in that kind of era, and you could be essentially put in jail for it.
Right.
If you had debt, you'd be put in this jail. To make it worse, you'd be charged to be in this jail. You'd have to pay money to be in this jail, but you wouldn't be allowed to leave until your debts are paid. It was a way to make your family and friends to pay your debt. And it was a big industry. Most of the jails, most of the criminals kept here were debtors rather than actual condemned people. If we go upstairs, you'll see that most of the cells are actually there were debtor cells. There's only a few condemned cells which were upstairs. We'll go upstairs and have a look
Yeah.
at what we can receive that with. Because most of the graffiti is upstairs.
So in a way, they were quite fair in that respect back then, by splitting up the debtors from the
Yeah,
criminals.
they didn't keep the sort of, they hit the criminals with the criminals and the debtors with the debtors, so you didn't have to, you wouldn't spend your time with the criminal.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in theory, anyway. I don't know how, the jailer kept it, but there's the stairs. These are modern stairs. The stairs would have been in the middle of the building. You can actually see the razor. Original part of the wall, this is all a little modern cut upwards. And this is where some more of the original stuff actually remains, because the original doors are still here.
Sorry, you just filled your ass.
That's alright, as long as it looks good. We shan't be using
Right,
that though.
These are the original doors. Now they have lasted since the sort of
Okay.
17th century, so they have been
Oh, right.
edited a lot. They've been cut short. They've been actually turned around. They were backwards. This would have been the outside, but because they've lasted all these years, they've always been in this building, haven't moved. They have been edited. They've been painted. I think the glass has been repainted at the time, but you can still see the original mechanism still works.
Yeah.
I'm sure I think that glass has been replaced. But you can still see the original iron bits and the bits of that would have held the thing back. And you can original bolts and the door frame's still original. That's been cut short again, I think. We keep going around. So
Yep.
this is where they kept the condemned or the recent criminals. They're the condemned who committed crimes.
Sorry.
That's all
Yeah,
right.
sorry.
Now
What was she saying?
this is where they kept the condemned criminals. So
Okay.
there's the ones who are going to be hanged the next day, or the ones that are also being shipped to Australia. So if you look over here, some of our more
Why
impressive-
would they ship them to Australia?
that was just a criminal punishment, a way of getting rid of people. They
Oh,
were
right.
sent to places like Botany Bay and penal cells in Australia
Yeah.
for committing crimes that weren't quite execution worthy. They then sent to Australia for their crimes.
Right.
That's like getting rid of them, really.
Yeah. Was that for life or just for a
You were sentenced for time, but most people never came back. Even if
Right.
you were sentenced to 20 years in like Botany Bay or somewhere,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't come back. It's quite difficult to get back. Most people stay there and actually, you know, live there and carried on. So
Yeah.
if we look actually look here, it's quite hard to make out. I don't know if you can make it on the camera, but you can see there's more graffiti with so much in this building. This is a ship. Can you see a ship? And the sort of theory goes that this is the ship. You know, someone was painting a ship that would have been sent away on. I don't know if you can make it out, but you've got your masts there. Look, you can see the sort of oars or cannon holes. I don't know what you call the cannon ports, maybe. And then you've got the sort of prow up here. And this whole wall was actually covered in it. It had 6 ships. We didn't know.
What were they for then?
These are just graffiti. These are just bored prisoners drawing on the walls.
Okay.
This whole wall was covered in.
Yeah, all these little
It's
squares.
hard to make out. Yeah, that's the ship's port. So you can see the masts of these lines. This is the best one that survived. But this is some more graffiti up here. Look, this is much more obvious. We have to got it sort of translated. Pray God, people remember the poor prisoner. You can see the remember quite clearly there, the M's and the B's, and you can see he's spelled remember wrong because he missed an E out. And that's the insert at the end. Here we go. This is the condemned cell. This is part of the original planking from this condemned cell. You can see the planking and the irons that I spoke about going between the planks. And you've even got a hole at the bottom here to attach someone by a chain. Then you have the chain coming out here. Attach it to their legs or arms or however you wanted.
Blimey.
Yeah. Some original. I don't think this is in its original place. I think it was just placed here for sort of museum purposes, but it's still nice.
Yeah.
I think it was further along. I think there was a.
What do you
door
think
here.
it went?
This would have went all along. I think the whole section
Yeah.
would have been. But I think at some point in the building of history, when it stopped being a jail, most of it was removed, and a lot of this planking was actually found when the building was sort of reconstructed into a museum. They pulled down walls and things and found a lot of these planking downstairs.
Was that in the 90s, was it, when it was turned into a museum?
It was turned into a museum in the 90s, yeah. Just before that it was a registry office. And then
Right.
sort of it all became sort of changed over then when it was a registry office, did a bit of work, and then they changed it to a museum, and
Yeah.
they started doing things then. We go sort of through here, there's sort of main things. We're actually in here, but there's another jail door, similar to the other one. Now this is sort of even a more haven of graffiti of prisons. Turn the door so you can actually see it better. This is much more better written. You can actually sort of see names a lot better on this one. This is all
It's
more
very neat writing as
prisoners.
well, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think this might have been a debtor's cell on this bit. So people might have been a bit better educated perhaps, and there might have been a bit of writings. But you can see names written in some sort of pencil up here. You can even see where it's underneath the sort of whitewash that's been put over it. Look, and you can see it flaking off to reveal some of the words and things. You see March 26th, 17 something. 77 maybe?
77?
1777, yeah.
Were people locked up here in 77 then?
1777. It started in 1760, I feel. No, earlier than that, 1680, I think. I have it written down.
So it was a jail for up until...
1820 it closed down as a jail. I definitely know that day. I
Right.
think it started in 1680, I think it was.
Right. So what would that graffiti be then? Say it with the 1977 on
Sorry?
it. What would that be from? Is it 1877 or 1977?
This one up here,
Yeah.
1777. So that's
Oh right, 1777.
1777.
I thought you said 1977.
Oh, sorry, no,
I was gonna
1777. So
say.
it's 300 years old.
Yeah.
Someone wrote that up there. His name was Charles, wasn't it? I think it's Charles. I'm not sure what his last name was. Had something maybe. Or maybe that was GR someone, March 26th, yeah. You'd have to spend ages trying to read what people have written up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get all covered in whitewash. As you can see, this is a cell. Almost you can see the door here. This is a modern cut. If you ever see straight lines in old buildings, almost always like modern cut throughs, and you can sort of see
Yeah.
where the side of one was. Again, this is another one. Go round with this one first. This is our actual, probably a cut here, which is probably another cell here. This is our sort of, here's our reconstruction of the sort of jail we have. That's more what it might look like. Is our dummies tied up.
Sorry.
Yeah. You can see, this is also another piece of graffiti, probably some of the sort of slightly creepy piece of graffiti that we put behind glass, but it's actually a hangman that someone's actually like graffiti the hangman. Bit morbid, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when these people who kept here were going to be hanged, so
Yeah.
I don't know why you would do that, but you can
That's
obviously,
strange.
you can obviously see in there some of the treatment that the prisoners received. We were known as a very bad prison, we seem to know from the history we have. We know that prisoners, things like our man down here was tied down simply because the walls were falling down. The walls would fall down and you could almost climb out of them. And rather than fixing the walls, the jailer would just tie a man down and attach a collar to his neck, just like the spike collar, just like that, just so he couldn't fit through gaps in the wall.
Right.
That's just so he wouldn't be able to crawl out, because the walls and the ceiling were falling apart at one point.
And what sort of prisoners did they do that to? Was that like the hard?
That would have been anyone who basically disobeyed the jailer. You can actually see original drawing of what actually the sort of conditions they were suffering just there through that one of our panels. Look, and that's what we sort of based our guide down here on.
But so those metal pieces and that are being used on this. Are they were they original pieces?
These aren't original. That's all plastic. It's all just about dummies. Not much of the original metal work has survived at all.
Right. So that was made especially just.
It would have been just from a blacksmith or something. And I imagine once it stopped being used, it was used again as something else. Scrap iron was worth money, so they wouldn't have left it in the building. So not much of the original metal work was survived. But we can actually go in that room because there's more actual graffiti. If you don't mind going in this jail cell, there's actually some more graffiti on the wall. If you want to look at that.
Yeah.
Watch out for the baskets of fruit. This is the only sort of squeeze through. Watch out. If you've got some light, you can see the graffiti again that's in this room. Again, you can see the wooden planking. You see names again, there's an R definitely there. An S, but it's backwards, clearly you know what an S looks like very easily. SC. Another hangman up here, look. A couple, look.
So what would they have drawn that on with? Stones? Like bits of
Stones,
wall,
whatever they had really. Yeah,
Yeah.
They might have had a spoon for eating maybe, or a fork or something, a knife.
Yeah.
Anything, I mean, not a knife in a jar, I don't think you'd let someone have that, would you? But you can see things, you can see W's, look. You can see someone called Tim. Can't even work out the last name there, but you can see people have. They've even here had some sort of, I don't know what they used to put that, but they're sort of painted on it, isn't it? RR or PR or PR, I'm not sure what that is, but you can see the places where they're properly gouged into the wall with all this sort of, you know, not, this isn't even a thing, this is just crisscrosses and things, you know, but this is all original to the building, so it's.
So what the prisoners who were sentenced to death,
Yep.
They're looking at the floor.
where were they hung?
Cathedral Green, as far as we know. Most of them were hung in the Cathedral Green. Either in front
Is
of it.
that in front of the cathedral?
In front of the cathedral, there's a cannon there now, but about there, yeah. I think the women were burnt at the back. They killed the women at the back, and they killed the men at the front, we seem to understand.
And how did they do it? Was it by hanging?
Hanging for the men, they seem to burn the women more than hang them. Julius was nice, really, but yeah, everyone was sentenced to hang, we seem to think. That was it, Ely. But there was horrible treatments. If you look at things like the Ely Chronicle, and once they were hanged, there was one case, I can't remember the particulars, but
It's okay to turn that off. So
yeah.
Otherwise
No one's interviewed
we're not going to hear a thing they're saying on it.
But there was one case I seem to remember from the Ely Chronicle that was once he was hung, he was nailed outside his father's house on a stick, on a sort of pole, to sort of teach everyone a lesson. His body was.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
What, after he was?
After he was hung.
And that was where?
That was in Ely. So once they hung him, they took his body to outside his father's house, nailed him to a pole, and just left him there as a sort of message.
How old was he then?
I don't know. We could try and look him up in the Ely
And
Chronicle.
what had he done then? He must have done something quite.
Oh, the penalty for death was, I can't even remember, it was written on one of these walls. There's stealing of something of value over, I think it was £2, I think. It wasn't much.
So all he did was steal something and they made an example of him and hung
Yeah,
him.
stealing anything, you know.
Oh.
different crimes he was sentenced for, any sort of proper crime, you know.
Yeah, and
Murderers.
he must have been quite young by the sounds of it as well.
Yeah, some horrible stories, you know.
Yeah.